Hi, I'm Ezra with ETC Technical Services, and today I'll be walking you through the first-time provisioning process for the ETC SiteLink SiteBox. Before we get started, we'll need a couple of things. First, we'll need the USB serial driver to connect the SiteBox to our computer. This driver is linked in the install documentation at etcsitelink.io/install. We'll go to the Downloads tab on this website. I'm on Windows, so I need the Universal Windows driver, which is compatible with Windows 10 and Windows 11. If I were using macOS, I'd grab the OS X driver, and if I were using anything older than Windows 10, I'd grab the Windows drivers. We don't need the serial enumerator here. I've already downloaded this file, and then I extracted it to a folder. Once I've done that, I can connect the SiteBox using only the micro USB cable. The USB-A port won't work for this purpose, and I'm not plugging in power yet. Once I've plugged that into my PC, I'm going to open up my device manager, where the device is showing up under other devices as the CP2104 USB to UART bridge controller. Now I'll right-click that device, choose Update Driver, browse my computer for drivers, click on the Browse button, go under where I downloaded that file, then click on the folder I extracted it to. We don't need to worry about which processor type we have. Windows is smart enough to figure that out for us. So I'm going to click OK. I want to make sure Include Subfolders is checked, and then I'm going to click Next. It'll go ahead and find that driver and install it for us, so I can click Close. And now we can see under our ports, we have the Silicon Labs USB to UART bridge listed as our COM port. Once we've done that, we know we're ready for our next step. The next thing you'll need is a terminal emulator. There are lots of options available for this, and whatever you would like to use is fine. I have TerraTerm on this PC, which is also linked in the install document. So you can see you can download TerraTerm there. So we'll go ahead and use that today. Once TerraTerm opens, it needs us to create a new connection. For this, we're going to click on Serial, and then we're going to click the Silicon Labs USB to UART bridge. The COM port number is going to vary depending on what COM port Windows wants to assign it. So we'll go ahead and click OK. Now, the default baud rate for this connection is going to be too slow. So we want to click Setup, and then Serial Port. And then under Speed, we're going to choose 115200. The rest of the settings here are, the defaults are fine. So click OK here. Now that I've done that, I am finally ready to connect power to my SiteBox. So you'll see it's doing a whole lot as it starts to boot. I'm going to expand my window because I need to see everything here. So as soon as we see the SiteBox login, we'll type setup for the username and then hit enter. And then I'm going to type setup again for the password. Now, if you're not used to Linux, you'll see the password doesn't actually show you anything when you type it in. That's fine. It's still keeping track. So I'm going to hit enter. And then we get our nice little setup UI here. Now, if you don't have this plugged into a lighting network yet, it is going to give you this error message saying that there might be a duplicate IP. That's not really what's going on. It's just telling you that it's not connected. So we can go ahead and hit enter to bypass. So on this menu, we can use our arrow keys to navigate and then press enter to select an option. In this installation, I'm going to use Wi-Fi for the internet connection. So I need to make sure that the Wi-Fi and the lighting network Ethernet connections are set up. I'm going to go ahead and do the Wi-Fi first. So I'll press enter here. In these menus where we have a bubble to check, we can press the up and down buttons to highlight an option, and then press the spacebar button to change the selection. Be careful not to press enter to try to change it, because that is going to just advance you to the next screen. So next it's going to scan for some access points. And I'm going to go ahead and pick my access point here. Then we're going to enter our password. So if I did everything right, we'll see this successfully connected screen. So we now have a Wi-Fi connection. Next, I'll make sure my lighting network is set up correctly. As a reminder, the two network port labels are embossed on the side of the SiteBox here. The lighting network port is on the outside and the internet port is on the inside. I do need to have an active connection to configure the network, so if you're provisioning off-site, you'll need to have it connected to something. So we do need to have something plugged into that lighting network port in order for us to configure it, though it doesn't have to be the network that we're ultimately connecting it to. In this case, I'm just going to plug it into my computer just so I have an active network connection. All right, now that I've got some blinking lights on my network, I'm going to arrow down to configure wired internet and press enter. Then I'm going to choose port 2 and press enter. That's our lighting network. The other one would be used if we were using a hardline internet connection. So I want to make sure that I set my IP mode to static for this, though if we had a DHCP server, we could do that as well. Then I'm going to press enter. The default IP is set for us here. We can change it if we like. I don't need to here. Note that this is set in the address/prefix length format. So we're setting both the IP and the subnet mask here at the same time, just in the prefix length format. So for instance, this 10.101.55.60/16 would be the equivalent of having a 255.255.0.0 prefix length. Hit enter here. Since my network isn't routed, I'm going to leave my default gateway blank and then press enter. And same for my DNS server, which I don't need. And if I needed to set up a wired internet connection instead of a wireless one, I would repeat that process for port 1 in the wired Ethernet connections. So now that I have my wireless and my wired networks set up, we can provision the SiteBox. So I'm going to select Perform Initial Commissioning. So it's going to check for a firmware update, and then it's going to connect to the server. Now, it did check for firmware updates. Since SiteLink is updated frequently, a freshly unboxed SiteBox will likely need an update, which might take a few minutes. Once the update is complete, it'll restart, so you will need to log in again before selecting Initial Commissioning. Once the SiteBox has connected to the server, it will display an access token that we'll need to take over to the SiteLink website. You might be tempted to highlight this token and then press Control-C to try to copy it. Don't do that, because Control-C is the universal terminal command for cancel your connection. So if I pressed Control-C, I would have to log in again and reestablish my connection, and I don't want to do that. But I can highlight this text, and I'll do Edit and then Copy. You'll see Alt-C is also the shortcut for that if you want to do that. At this point, we can go to etcsitelink.io. We can sign in, and then we'll select our site if we have access to more than one. If you only have one site on your account, you'll see it'll just log you right in. At this point, I'm going to click on my little gear icon and then go to ETC SiteBox provisioning. Here is where we can add our SiteBox to our site. So to do that, I'm going to click in this Enter Passphrase box, paste in my passphrase, and then I'm going to click Add. It's going to ask us for a name, and we'll go ahead and see that we are successfully provisioned. If we hop back over to TerraTerm, we'll also see that it shows we have successfully provisioned this box. Now we're ready to start adding devices to our site. For more information, you can consult the SiteLink help documentation or check out the SiteLink course on Learning Stage, which we've got linked in the video description. Thanks for joining me, and as always, feel free to contact your local ETC office with any questions.